It's me, Capri. My mommy is the best. Super mom, Robin, she helps mommies get their smiles back, their giggles back, and their sparkle back. You wait for the straw brush. Get ready for that super slippery, that super strong.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Healing for the Soul podcast, sponsored by myself, Robin Stoltman, with this being season number 6, episode number 9. If you are ever looking for a virtual assistant who can edit your social media content, grow your social medias, book clients, and much more that all businesses require, I highly recommend Sphere Rocket for all your virtual assistant needs. The link to Sphere Rocket is at the bottom of this episode. And before we get started, remember, I am your host, Robin Stoltman, and every week I feature different guests to help you become the best version of yourself through different methods you may not have heard of or thought of. So be sure to subscribe and keep coming back for more. Now, today I have my guest, Dan Graham, who is helping people uncover and release the subconscious stories holding them back. Not by reprogramming the mind, but by revealing the false identities they've been living through. His work isn't about becoming someone new. It's about letting go of who you're not. And when you're no longer run by these limiting narratives, clarity and change happen naturally. Whether it's relationships, health, or career, he guides clients to align with who they truly are, limitless, grounded, and free. And today, Dan is talking about affirmations and why they may not be working for you. So let's get started. Thank you so much, Dan, for being here. He is the mindset coach, and thank you for being here with our audience.
Thank you very much, Robin. What a lovely introduction. I hope I live up to the expectations of that. That was fantastic. I can tell you've done your homework.
I definitely have. I was going to say, one of the quotes on your website that caught me was the action becomes unsustainable when it falls out of line with the unconscious beliefs you hold about yourself. What does that mean to you and to our audience?
Yeah, so I love that quote. It came to me one day and I thought, yeah, no, that's going on my website. So how I started my journey with personal growth a long time ago, right, as sort of the stereotypical coach myself through something. So if I'm scared of something, I feel the fear, and just go and do it, right? And sometimes it got me some results. I got some promotions in work, things like that. But it never felt right. It always felt like I was achieving, but the same little Dan inside was still not. I was still the same person inside, right? So. And then over time, that chips away at you and it's just unsustainable. And any growth that you do get, it might be outer growth, but inwards, you're just the same person. So the growth only really happens when you kind of, when you really work on what's underneath the surface, which is why it's a great topic, the affirmations, because I think that's something that quite often people are, they use them trying to get a goal or get somewhere, and it's not always the best way.
I would agree with you. It's kind of like some of them that people use, like, don't give up. Well, I don't think people understand that the brain does not see the word no and not. Kind of like their ads for don't drink and drive. The brain does not have the ability to filter out. It filters out automatically on its own the word not.
Exactly. Yeah. No, quite right. Yeah.
So I mean, the ads are stupid in a way, we're taught no and not, but if you leave the word out and you do something else, instead it would help. And I think that's the affirmation part that we're going to be talking about is helpful in what you have found with people as well, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. That's a great way of summing it up.
So in all of that you've done, when you've worked with different clients, because it's all been the high achievers and all of that, because after all, I think that's the audience that really does the most. We're the most self-motivated when we're the high achievers. We're keep going and keep going. But then where can you help somebody with the affirmation part? When they're getting that stuck, you talked about yourself.
Yeah. So I think if someone's like you say, the high achievers, they're motivated, they want to, and they're often the people who are coming to us, right? But I mean, you can help people informally throughout the day, throughout life, everyone you meet, really, because and often, although high achievers often do come to me, it's often not as well. Sometimes it's spontaneous people who I've come across in my day-to-day life. We've clicked, and I just maybe drop a little carrot in there or something like that, and then they maybe look up on Instagram, see a little bit more and stuff like that. Because I think we've all got a longing to kind of want to do better and be better. It's just some people cover it up because they're lost in their own narratives that they're not good enough, they don't belong, they're not safe, and all these sort of things that are underneath the surface. And then their actions become just so difficult to take.
I would definitely agree with you. I think a lot of people do like to hide it. Like what you said, like everybody has that self built inside that they want to do more, they want to become more. But I think what happens is that there's too many dream killers out there.
Yeah.
Usually the parents are the quickest to shoot down any dream, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So then the child's like, okay, well, if I have this dream, well, it's not good enough. Or if I have this dream, it's not going to make enough money. That's one of the things that I heard recently with the younger generation, is that a lot of the parents that have their children now, have the little ones, a lot of them, they're just going based on, well, that's not going to make you enough money. So then they're trying to tell a child that you have to make a lot of money in order to be significant, in order to have the life worth living. And it's like, that's backwards. That's not what it's about.
Absolutely. And the irony is often the parents, who are trying to guide their children out of love from what they know of it towards happiness. And they're doing it through their lenses, and they're often not happy themselves or and then they're trying to people the recipe for being happy and for being abundant when they've not really necessarily made that their own reality, so yeah, it's difficult, and we all grow up in that environment, and but the longing's still there, and it just depends how covered it up. Some people are able to open their mind and and go out seeking for it, but some people just need something. Suffering's a big heart opener, as we know, but then also sometimes it is just like meeting the right person at the right time, the right moment, reading the right book accidentally sometimes. Who knows?
That is very true. I'm thinking about for the affirmation part of it for everything. It's like even that can be an affirmation in itself, like when you're starting to seek out who it is that you're after to help you.
Yeah.
In what you're doing, because it plays into that law of attraction as well.
Of course it does. Yeah. So with affirmations, so just to be clear on why I feel that it's not that I don't think they necessarily do you damage. I just don't think they're potent. I don't think they work really. And to explain it in the best way, you have to kind of go to the very beginning or the very start and go, all of our actions and behaviors, in whatever way they manifest, right, they are, the reason for it is because what we're looking for is peace, joy, love, happiness, right? So whatever it is, that's what we're all longing for, right? So we're all longing for that, but the reality is that is who we already are, right? So we already are peace, joy, love, and happiness, and that is the reason why we're longing for it. Now, what is in the way of that is the narrative, the story that we've told ourselves, like we just touched on there, like from our childhood, maybe something happened and you were overlooked by your parents, or you were beaten in a football match, or something didn't go your way, right? And then we create a story out of that. So that might be, I'm not good enough, or I don't belong, or these things. And the thing is, they're not in our conscious mind. These are unconscious to us. They're almost like the lenses that we're looking at life through, right? So when you get that, then you start to realize that, why do we need an affirmation to tell us that we're lovable, or that we're good enough, all these sort of things, when that is our true nature? Okay, so it's almost like but what's in the way of it is the lie. Okay, so you've got our true nature here, lie there, and then the affirmation. So we're trying to assert something that we already are, but there's a lie stuck in the way of it. So you're kind of almost playing tennis backwards and forwards between it. So what it is once you reveal the lie and you pull it from the unconscious into the conscious, and then you start to understand it, you scrutinize it logically, like the masculine. Is it a truth? Is it the reality, and all that sort of thing? But then also scrutinize it through the feminine, right? Which is more like, because this has been a felt experience in your life for however many years, right? So it's embodying that feeling, but without attaching it to your thoughts. So as you start to do this, and you kind of go through that practice, and you realize that it's not a truth, then that subsides and goes away. And in the absence of that belief, you are what you wanted to affirm. It's already there. Do you see what I mean? So as you move the blockers out of the way, you don't need to create an affirmation to say I'm good enough, because that is, you are good enough in your natural state. So it's almost like it's just pointless, because as you remove all the blockers, the reality shines through. So there's no need for an affirmation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Because what I've been taught, like about the hypnosis and everything, and been a hypnotherapist. So yeah, I do understand like what you're saying, because it's like that belief and that blockage comes, like you hold on to like the lie. Like, for example, we'll just go with I'm not good enough. Well, it's like the I am right there is extremely powerful first and foremost. But then the lie is that you're not good enough. Well, it's like, says who?
Yeah.
Like, who came up with that lie? So then once you become aware of it, like you said, you're scrutinizing it, you're thinking on it, and you're like, okay, so the brain will point out every single time that you yourself thought you were not good enough.
Absolutely.
Or it'll point out every time you are good enough if you ask the right question. If you stop asking, well, why am I not good enough? And you start to change it, like you said, consciously, where you're aware of it now. Okay, well, where have all the times I have been good enough? And then the brain will give you all that answer. So then that
Absolutely.
lie that you've been believing of not good enough starts to diminish itself on its own.
Absolutely. And it's also like going to these points where you didn't feel good enough, right? So as
Yes.
a child, maybe it happened, right? And you go to those things and you embody the feeling, but if you're, like you said there, you scrutinize it, and okay, something happened which wasn't very nice and probably left the child with trauma or feelings of not feeling good enough. But does it actually define the individual? Does it mean that they were inherently born not good enough? No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that they felt that from an event that happened in their life, which is very sad, and it had consequences for that child. But what really is sad is that they've reenacted that all through their life. And then they will have gone on to build more evidence that they're not good enough. Because if you're looking at life through the lens of I'm not good enough, and that's how you see the world, then life will repeat that back to you. So you will keep on getting more and more evidence to prove and justify the lie that you've taught yourself, right? So
yes, exactly. And unfortunately, I say unfortunately because that feeling dictates everything. That's like the law of attraction, the law of vibration, whatever you want to call it. But it's like that's what you keep attracting then in your relationships, in your job, in your family, everything. And then you get so frustrated and worn out and burnt out and all these things that happen. And it's like, if you just learn to change that one feeling, everything else begins to change.
Yeah. Or a lot better than change the feeling. From my viewpoint, it's revealed the lie. Reveal the lie. Reveal the lie, which is the feeling of not feeling good enough. And then you start to, because your system understands that. If you kind of go, I've got to, again with the affirmations, I've got to be great, I can make it, I can do this, I can do that. Your system, it struggles to understand it when underneath it's kind of got this narrative saying that fighting against that. But when you kind of revealing a lie, it becomes really believable for your system because it's the truth, and the truth's the truth, isn't it? So it's always going to shine through.
It definitely is. And that's the amazing part that I've learned. The more I've learned about the brain, the more I've learned about like the mind body and all this different stuff. It's like the beliefs are everything. And it's,
Cool.
yeah. And it's like all the lies that we tell ourselves. If you think about it, like we have, I think it's like 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And it's like parents tend to program their children, unfortunately, because a lot of parents don't do the work before they have the kids or while they've got the kids. A lot of them don't. And it's like then they're programming all of their crap onto their kids. And then they expect their kids to have confidence. How many parents are like that? I'm like, you cannot give what you do not have. You want confident children, you must be confident yourself. If you want your children to be wealthy, you must love money coming in. You must love people that have more than you do, that have more riches, that have all that, because you won't have it if you hate it. It's impossible to have what you hate because it repels it.
Absolutely, yeah. And isn't it a beautiful moment when through all these generations, like parents have passed on to parents and parents and parents and parents, and it's gone on karmically like that. And then suddenly at one moment in time, someone turns around and starts to look at themselves and then changes the whole karmic history. It's beautiful.
Yes, it is. And I think it's like the epigenetics, I think is what I've been told, that they've been able to like find these things. And I was like, yeah, it's true. And it's absolutely amazing how it works. It's like even in the affirmations, I'm thinking, you know, like when we're saying that they're not working, you know, for a lot of people, I think once you tend to agree that maybe it's because people don't know themselves enough. They know themselves, like I love chocolate, for example, and I love M&Ms, for example, but they don't know who they really are. Like when we're talking about like all the lies. Like, I'm not good enough. Okay, well, then you're going to go repeat that. That's great. But do you really know who you are?
100%. And this is why affirmations are so dangerous, because that, in a funny way, even if it's a good assertion that you're putting on yourself, it's still in some way limited. So who you are, it's very difficult to put it into something conceptual. So as you reveal what you're not, who you are becomes revealed, and so that's where authenticity kicks in. So it's not someone going, oh, I've got to be authentic, or I've got to find myself again. It's just another pressure. It doesn't work. What you do is you go to reveal all the lies that you've told yourself that you're not, and then you find your own quirky little nature, that little child in you coming back.
Yeah, and I agree with you, because I don't remember what age it is that men or women hit their midlife crisis. I haven't hit that age yet. I'm just saying, like, I know that there's a point where a lot of people hit that midlife crisis, and it's like you could have avoided that years ago if you had done the work on yourself back in your 20s. You could have avoided all of that. But instead, people aren't taught these things. They're certainly not taught that in school, you know. And I think if they would teach some of these things, that would help, because you're going to avoid the life crisis, the midlife crisis. You're going to avoid a lot of these issues. It's like even parents that are listening, that would be very helpful, is tell your children, teach them now about how they can, like, who they are. And not just like the surface level stuff like the chocolate and all that, but like who they really are inside. Like, yeah, okay, you like the color pink, that's great, but what else do you like? Like, bringing that person, like what you were talking about, out when they're young. Like, for example, I got one son that wants to be a farmer, so I'm like, okay, he's only 8 right now, but we've been working on this farm. We started, it's a garden, but it's his crops. And I told him every time he goes outside and he's watering his garden, I says, that's not a garden, that's 100-acre farm. And I want you to go out to do your crops. I want you, and we call the cats in the morning that he feeds the cats, because we have cats. I says, those are your cattle. And I want you to get this now, where you're waking up early, you're feeding your cattle, you're feeding, you gotta go out and you gotta go water. Well, it's not the water, but it's like he said, the sprinklers. And I says, yes, you've got those on your crops. And he's got a John Deere, it's a 1970 pedal tractor. It's a John Deere one. But he goes out and he uses that to go bring the water. And the whole point why I'm doing this now with him, I started it last year with him, was because when he grows up, he'll have a lot of the farming already down.
Yeah.
Because it's feeding his dream.
Yeah. And in his mind, if he's in his mind, he's a farmer, then that's what he'll become.
Yes. That's why I'm like, it's nice that I've been able to catch that. I'm like, the other kids I'm waiting on, I'm like, just tell me. But as soon as he could start talking at 2.5 years old, he said he's a farmer. And I'm like, okay, he can tell you all about the different tractor stuff. I can't. But I'm like, I'm trying.
No, that's beautiful. That really is, and it just shows how, like we were talking earlier about that moment in time where you break the karmic cycles, and that was one of those, and he'll reap the rewards from that for years to come, hopefully.
Yeah, and that's like, I even tell my, I know it's an affirmation for like, I am a farmer, and I'm, I have 100-acre farm, I'm doing the crops and everything, and like the cattle and that, but it's like, it's building them now to prevent issues later, that midlife crisis that I was talking about. But then even at that, it's like the affirmations, I'm, like, it's sometimes like as a parent, we get so stressed out sometimes. And it's like, okay, what do I even want to do sometimes? It's
of course. Yeah.
Like what do you want to be when you grow up? My kids have asked me that a couple times. I'm like, you know what? I'm not sure, but I'll let you know when I find out.
Yeah, but being not sure sometimes a really good starting place, because like I think we're all obsessed with feeling we've got to know everything, and we've got to, and sometimes I say to people, and they say, "Oh, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what I am anymore, or what I want anymore." I say, well, that's actually a really good place to be, because we're all that obsessed with identifying with everything, and it's that very identification that we were discussing earlier that is what creates suffering.
Yeah, it definitely does. And that's like when people have like different illnesses, for example, they become their diagnosis.
Yeah.
And it's like, you see it all the time. And it's really sad that people become their diagnoses. And it's like the DSM-5, the DSM-6, whatever number they're on now, it's like, that's just to bill insurance. That's all it is. Everybody, I'm not sorry, but because I own one, I'm like, everybody I know that's a human fits into that DSM-5 somewhere. Because it's like, it doesn't take much at all. Well, do you think people are after you? Well, yeah, I do sometimes, depending upon what day it is, like for like the paranoia, and you have it for like 6 months, like as an example. But it's like some of these things, it's like when you're self-identifying these things, everybody's got problems. It's just, and I've been realizing that more and more. So it's like, even in the affirmations, it's like, they tend not to work, because it's like, maybe we're comparing ourselves. Comparison is a thief of joy. Like, it steals so much things. And then it's like, you see this on social media all the time. Oh, you gotta have the perfect house. You gotta have the perfect. Says who? Like, they literally, like, who says you have to have all this?
Yeah. And what is the perfect house? like what your perfect house might be very different to mine, and the story goes on. So it's just society thousands of bullshit, really. If I don't know, apologies for my language, but it is, and this conditioning, it happens from such a young age in so many people, and like none of us are perfect parents, but as I have a 6-year-old, and I practice not teaching her things, because we're that obsessed with teaching them everything, and but really, if we can just keep them safe and keep them happy and let them express and be life, then that they know the way.
Yeah, they definitely do. I'm like, I've learned more about life from my kids than I have from anything else outside of my cats.
Isn't it funny, just to elaborate on that one? It's funny because children are happy and the adults very often aren't happy. And then we're trying to teach them how to be happy.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, it's almost like who's teaching who sometimes.
Yeah.
That's why that's like with a couple of my kids, like during the pandemic there, when everybody was still scared about it. The one took my 8-year-old, he was younger then, but he took and licked the inside of the freezer at Walmart. And I looked at him, I'm like, why are you doing that? And he looked at me because he has autism. So that's why he didn't talk. But the whole thing is that he's talks now and we worked a lot on him. But anyways, well, I should say I've worked a lot on him for behaviors and stuff. But what he wanted was his tongue squeezed. So here I am in Walmart after he just licked the inside of the freezer. I'm squeezing his tongue. People look, of course. And then I'm like, you know what? I really don't care. Like, this is something my son needed. This is something I had to do. He didn't understand it because of his age at that time. But it's like, how many parents don't realize that sometimes their kids need to get their needs met, but we're too busy, like you said, to like, well, wait a minute, I'm trying to teach you how to be happy. And then here I'm not able to see that my child has this other need. Like that's that help, like what I'm trying to say as far as like what you had just said for about like we're trying to teach our children something, but then they teach us something else. Like they have a need. Like his need was getting unmet at that time. And me, I'm like, okay, I'm in the store, like all this is going on. I already have a large family. I'm used to it. But at this point it's like, so what he taught me that day was, who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm the parent first.
Yeah. And like having a child with autism, it like because you worry about the social, what people are thinking, what people are saying, and it must be difficult, but it's a really good practice for you because yeah.
He broke that day. That's where I was very thankful to God that he did that, because that was the day. That's why I remember that, because I'm like, that was seriously the day he broke all that whole, what are other people thinking of me? He's having the meltdowns because he's had those so bad. Like all these things, and people think, oh, you're a bad parent, you're not disciplining, all this other crap. And it's like, well, maybe that's you for your family. You're trying to tell me how to run my life when you don't even got your own stuff together, which I found that to be true for a lot of people. Like the people that aren't doing very much, they tend to spew the most. I understand that now in the Bible how it says about, for the wise man tends to hold his tongue, but the voice of the fool has many words. I understand that now.
I love that. Yeah, that makes real sense.
So it's like that was that one moment that I'm like, okay, this makes sense. But I mean, like even with you said you have a daughter that's 6, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so like even with her, I'm sure that you're teaching her, different things with her mind now that she can do, like all the things that she can become at the same time.
Yeah, to be honest with you, what I'm trying to do is just let her find out for herself, without minimal intervention, really, and just let her believe that she can do whatever she wants to do. Let her find out what she wants to do. If one day she wants to be an animal activist, which has come up in conversation, the next day she might want to be, I don't know, a policewoman or whatever, and let her play with it and let her, because I think it's very, very easy for us to kind of start subtly implementing what we want.
True.
Sometimes it's unconscious, and we've all done. We all fall into that trap. We were brought up in that way, and that's what we see and what we see around us, and it's very easy. And do you know what? We're all just doing the best we can, and we're acting out of love. And sometimes we're not perfect. Sometimes our parenting isn't perfect, but we just try. We just try. That's all we can do.
Yeah, that's all a person can do is try their best. But that's where I'm also like, if you can do it while they're young or before you have kids, it's like that's where I'm like, there's a few things I wish I would have changed early on, but I'm like, it's okay, because having that ability to go say, you know what, I'm sorry, I messed up. Like I'm still learning too. That's what I tell my kids. I'm like, I'm still learning. I don't get. That's why I wanted to say, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't figured out yet.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just like a playful way of like telling them like, I know what I do, but I mean like, it's a playful way of saying, you know what, I really don't know.
Yeah.
It's
And
like leaving that
like I say,
open, like you said.
yeah, and if you can teach your child that you don't know everything, then I think that's a really good place because it leaves that humility and humbleness in them as well. And it's a good place for finding what because we're obsessed with knowing what we want, and this is what I speak to clients and people about all the time. It's like people think they know what they want, and then 6 months later it might be completely different, right? So it's like, well,
True.
do we? Or we say we wanted to. Another thing to think about is we say we want to know we want something, right? But then we've not actually had it, so we don't know what that experience is like. We're just going off what we think, right? So sometimes life has a better plan for us.
That is true. That's
Sometimes life has a better plan. But what we're doing in our little small mind is going, I don't want this plan that life's given me. I want to imprint what I want, what little me, and then life goes, okay, then there you go, and then it sometimes doesn't work out, does it? So it's
no. And then or like when you do achieve it, then you're like, well, that was great. Like, I thought it was gonna have like more. Like I thought I would do more, like become more. Nope, still not there yet. And I'm like I said, as a high achiever myself, it's like I definitely have had that struggle. Like I achieved something, well, that's great, but now like, what do I do with this? Like I thought that's what I wanted, like what you just said, and then I got it. Well, now I'm not so sure that I want that.
yeah, exactly. And this is the human like dysfunction,
Yes.
really, because we're all what we do is underneath, if there's a subtle feeling of unhappiness, we start going, it's okay, I'll be happy when I get this or I get that or I do the next thing, then you get there, and then and this is where striving begins, and it's the root of unhappiness, really. So it's good to it's good to have goals and want goals and do things, but it's really, really important to know that your happiness is not dependent on it. Your happiness is dependent on the work you do inside, and then externally things will manifest from that, actually. But
yeah, it does. Isn't it amazing how it does that though?
oh yeah. Because like I say, the way you see the world, the goggles you've got on, like we were discussing earlier, your world will reflect that. It's like if you have some blue goggles on, right, the world's going to look blue. So if you have goggles on saying I can't trust people, what are you going to find? You're going to find people you can't trust, and that's how it works. That's it. So it's always coming back to yourself, and even when you don't want to, and you want to be the victim, but being true to yourself, being honest to yourself, and
yeah, that's definitely true. I would 100% agree with you on all of that. So I'm just wondering, how can our audience get in contact with you so they can learn more and follow you and get in contact with you if they want to be able to have sessions with you?
Yeah, so my website, which is www.dangrahamcoaching.co.uk. So that's always a good starting place. You can see a little bit more about my philosophies, what I'm about, but also Instagram. That's if you want some short little video clips and little insights. That's a really good spot as well, which is Dan Graham Coaching. Simple as that. So I would say they're really good place. Or get in contact with me via my website or whatever, and we can have a chat.
Awesome. Well, I am so excited that you were on our show today, Dan. I really appreciate it. And I want to remind all of our guests, for our audience across the board, be sure to subscribe and share Healing for the Soul podcast with everyone that you know. And I encourage you to follow me, Robin Stoltman, on social media, and my guest, Dan Graham, who is the mindset coach as well. And thank you for your time and your energy while listening to today's episode of Healing for the Soul podcast. Thank you so much, Dan. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, really has, Robin. Thank you so much.
You got it.